morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN Weekly for Saturday, September 11th, 2021. And our top story today, celebrating and preserving family legacies. Joining me now to discuss this and a lot more is Rich Polt. He's the founder and producer of Acknowledge Media. Rich, it's great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
It's great to be here, Jeff.
Yeah, and I should say that you and I have known each other since we were little kids. In fact, I recall playing Atari in your basement, a little Missile Command on the good old 2600. But today we're going to focus on what I think is really interesting, which is capturing the legacy and specifically your business at Acknowledge Media. Let's start by talking about how technology has changed how we capture legacy and what legacy actually means.
Sure. So that's a very broad question. I'm immediately struck by just the fact that we have a lot less hair than we did back in the day.
That's a legacy. Yeah,
and if we could learn how to capture and preserve that would be the $1 million idea. But that aside, legacy means a lot of different things to different people. My definition of legacy encompasses three areas. I look at every person as almost being a bridge of the generations, right? We're connecting the past to the future, whether that's through our children or nieces and nephews or our friends in our community. And so when I look at legacy, I look at the past. Where do we come from, right? What are the stories that inform who we are, our ancestors, our coming to America story, something like that. I look at, as the second category, our own journey, our experience. What are the highs of our life? What are the things that we've struggled with, the challenges that we've faced? And then the third component is looking forward. It's what are our hopes and our dreams for the future? What do we want our legacy? How do we want to be remembered by those who come after us? And for every person, the emphasis, the priority is going to be on different aspects of that definition, but being able to capture those in some way, shape, or form and give those to the future is a gift. It's a gift to those who come after us. It's a gift to ourselves. And technology has made that a lot easier to preserve it and to give that gift. Technology has enabled that. It's been the great enabler.
Yeah, I agree. And I just taking a step back, you mentioned coming to America, generations, connecting the dots. It must be fascinating to sit in those conversations with your clients and to learn their stories, because every story is unique. That's got to be very rewarding for you and your team.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, I come at this is my profession. This is the work that I do, but this is my passion. This is a second act for me. And I talk about this as the job that I hope I never have to retire from. Every person who I speak with, I learn about history. I learn about dealing with adversity, and I'm learning about myself in the process. So yeah, I mean, I started this job here in Baltimore, where I live, where we're both from. That was 6 years ago, and now I serve a national audience, and so I'm flying all over. But beginning in this kind of hub here in Baltimore and Washington, what was amazing was I would start working with families, and we would talk about their ancestors. We would go back one or two generations, and after I started working with a few clients, I started to see connections, like literally clients who were connected through the same church or the same synagogue, and all these touch points. So it's been wild seeing these histories coalesce and come together for me.
Let's talk about the process, Rich, because, kind of looking at your site, I have to think to be able to unravel this or unpack it, maybe that's the better word here. There's a process in place to interview, to understand, to get conceptually, when I'm forming a show here on BRN, I've got to know kind of where I'm going in order to get there. But you've got to pull that out of people who maybe are unfamiliar with, working in media and how to take their story and convey it in in this art form. How do you do that?
So this is something that for a person who has, never recorded or talked about their own story, which can be very daunting on a number of different levels. And what we've attempted to do, I think what we've succeeded in doing, but we're always refining and changing, is take something that is on the surface very daunting and very broad, and we've tried to make it something that is going to be enjoyable, cathartic, something that doesn't feel as scary. And so, well, again, with every story being different, what we do is we have an approach. We come in, we pre-interview our clients, which is our opportunity to get to know them before the cameras go on, right? And that's so important because we need to have our own roadmap, just as you do coming into a conversation. We need to understand what we're going to be talking about coming into that conversation. I talk about the legs of the stool. Each of us within our own lives, take an 80-year life, the amount that we've done, our experiences, we could never capture or talk about all of those things. So how do we get to the heart of what's important to talk about? And so that's where I talk about the legs of the stool. We each have 3 or 4 anchors in our lives that we know are going to be important to our story. For some people, that could be family, and that's often a big anchor. For some people, it could be philanthropy. It could be military service. It could be our vocations, our jobs. So once we understand what the legs of the stool are for our clients, that helps us understand where that conversation is going to live. And then we come in, we do the filming, and we try to keep that to a one-day endeavor. Then after we film, everything goes into post-production, and that's where we do the heavy lifting, and the family can kind of take a deep breath and know that they've recorded it, they've done what they need to do, and then they wait about 2 to 3 months and they get the final product.
Rich, we've talked a lot on this program, not only about retirement and pre-retirement and financial planning, but we've talked a lot, quite frankly, about end of life. And we've had people from funeral homes come on and talk about that. And whether it's a will, an estate plan, a medical directive, these are important documents to have. Might you posit to say that this legacy, this documentation is something that you can also have to pass on to your heirs to make sure that they understand from where they came and they have a deeper sense of who they may be and who they are?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Jeff. I mean, I often will talk about this work in those very terms. We, as a society, we understand the importance of creating a will. And we do so because we're thinking about the security of the generations that come after us, and we want to safeguard our physical possessions, for example. And so we create this document, we call it a will. We want to make sure that our finances are safeguarded for the next generation. And so we create estate plans and trusts. Too often, we forget or we overlook those other aspects of legacy, which I believe are the most important. And those are the stories, and those are the experiences and the lessons learned and the values. Those are the things that are so important to pass on. And there have been studies that show that when people understand where they come from, when they understand the stories of their family, they have a stronger sense of understanding about themselves. They have greater self-confidence. And in fact, they can utilize that, and that will help them be more successful in their own lives by having that context for where they come from. So I believe that it's not just kind of soft, airy-fairy, like this is important stuff. I believe that this is fundamentally important to guaranteeing and safeguarding the future of our generations.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. And I love the way that you've adapted this to technology and using technology to capture all this. Rich, unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it there. Really appreciate you coming on the program. Great to connect. And we look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me, Jeff.
Thanks, Rich. Great to see you, and thanks for sharing your perspective. And when we come back, we'll take a look at some of our best segments for the week. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN Weekly. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Are you stuck with a low credit score? A credit report and score that's causing you to be denied credit or pay higher interest rates than others for the same things? Then do what Terrence did and call Credit Repaired for your free credit evaluation to help restore your credit.
I started thinking about buying a new house, and my score wasn't where I needed it to be. I called and spoke with one of the representatives, and we just had a good conversation, and I liked what he was saying.
Just one call for his free credit evaluation was all it took to start back on the track to repairing his credit.
I'm seeing the deletions and I'm getting the report, so I know something's being done. It does make a difference to me.
All it takes is one call to get started.
Credit Repair has given me a second chance to have a better credit score.
Don't let a low credit score hold you back another day. Do what Terrence did and make the call for your free credit evaluation.
Call 800-819-4152. That's 800-819-4152. Again, 800-819-4152.
Welcome back. On Tuesday, I sat down with Aon Investments' Russ Ivanjak to learn about assessing and measuring ESG and sustainable investing. Let's take a look.
Well, first of all, let me say I love the question. And the reason I love the question is that you're not asking me, is now the time? You're already in agreement that now is the time. So we've acknowledged now is the time.
Absolutely.
The DC world, for the most part, has been focused on convincing, or in some cases, even tricking people into saving more, hopefully enough for retirement, right? The second struggle that we've been facing is getting people to invest those savings appropriately, having enough risk early so their money grows, de-risking later so that they don't experience a big loss at the worst possible time just when they're about to retire. And just to say it, of course, those things are the right things to focus on. But let's say you and I wake up tomorrow magically in a world where we've taken care of those couple problems. There's still a third big problem left, and that's people are more reliant on their defined contribution savings to pay for their retirement than they've ever been before. It's less common for people to have a defined benefit these days. There are questions around the future viability of Social Security. And at the same time, people are living longer and costs in their retirement are higher. So the responsibility for coming up with a plan to spend down their savings, even if it's enough savings, has shifted to the individual. And they have no idea how long they need to make that money last or what the markets will do as they're managing down their money. That's a daunting task for everyone except fortune tellers and psychics. Even actuaries and professional money managers struggle with those issues individually. And how can we expect the average person in a retirement plan to do that on their own? So the temptation is to focus on the products first. There are all kinds of new solutions that are out there, more still coming to market. And these providers that are selling those solutions are making the rounds, creating awareness, talking to plan sponsors. We get a lot of questions from our clients around whether we like a certain product. Is it buy rated by Aon? We find that it's much better to reframe that conversation and first focus on what is being solved for. There are guaranteed solutions and there are non-guaranteed solutions. There are options that live inside the plan. There are options that live outside the plan at the end of the plan. Opt in, opt out, choices that serve specifically as, as solutions that are geared toward retirees and solutions that bridge the gap between people who are saving and people who are spending. So narrowing in on the right sets of those trade-offs will better allow employers to meet the needs of their former employees. And then those retirees will ultimately go through the same framework. Do I want guaranteed income? Do I want to choose the allocations to the different solutions, or do I want to have a professional make those allocation choices for me? It's the same kind of the process, but it happens twice. And that's why offering one spending solution in the plan may not be enough. It may not fit, the needs and circumstances of everyone individually. There's no expectation that fiduciaries are going to have a crystal ball. You can only make a decision informed on what information is available to them in that moment. And as long as they go through the prudent process and requirements and guidance that are out there as part of the regs, fiduciaries should feel really comfortable with making decisions around guaranteed income. The other thing that the current regulatory environment supports through the passage of the Secure Act at the end of 2019 is requiring annual disclosures that translate someone's income balance into an ongoing stream of income. So I'm hopeful that if nothing else, this will help to shift people's mindsets away from thinking about account balances and encourage them to start thinking about their savings in terms of ongoing income. Hopefully this interview is a good nudge for employers who are watching. I think what's missing here a little bit is the motivation. Kind of like climate change, the issues surrounding DC retirement income have historically been a tomorrow problem. There have been a handful of reasons that employers point to when explaining why they haven't offered spending solutions yet. The most common reasons are fiduciary concerns, which you've already cited, administrative concerns and complexity, lacking demand from their employees. But there haven't really been consequences yet for staying on the sidelines. So for the employers that aren't offering spending solutions yet, nothing's happened, right? To the extent that those employers continue to remain on the sidelines, we're going to see entire generations of people run out of money in retirement. And unfortunately, by the time that actually happens and it becomes a today problem and not a tomorrow problem, it's too late. So the DOL illustration is a really good nudge, right? That's required. All plans are going to have to do that. And hopefully participants are paying attention to the communications and they're seeing that and they're thinking about it. That can create demand at the employee level, which hopefully also additionally kind of rolls up and creates demand at the plan sponsor level. The other thing that we're doing on the consulting side is making sure that this is a front and center topic. We're talking about this with as many clients as we can. We're educating, which is obviously an important way to do it. And while we don't want to create too much fear, I think to some extent, scare tactics are warranted here because that's just the reality of the situation. So yeah. I think a little bit of fear is okay. Maybe too much just causes paralysis and people kind of don't want to make decisions there. But, I think education, I think the new communications and required disclosures are going to go a long way. Lawmakers certainly seem to be on the side of understanding that this is an issue and income is an important way to solve for it. And so just doing all those things and continuing to beat that drum and hope people hear it.
And I also sat down with Elon University student Eric Sabatino to learn about financial skills in the age of Bitcoin. Let's take a look.
So I got an on-campus apartment this year instead of a dorm, which is a great upgrade. We have a kitchen. We have a living room, so it's really great to have our own kind of place. I also had a job starting as soon as I got on campus, so that was great to be able to walk right there because it's only a couple minutes away. Because COVID is still in effect, we do have some policies around that, but the only thing that's really an issue is like masks indoors. Everything else is pretty lenient and rolled back. All of my classes are now completely in person, which is great because you get to actually meet your classmates and your teachers, unlike in Zoom classes where you would just show up. Most of the people would have their cameras off, probably asleep. So it's really good to get to actually meet the people you're in class with and get to talk to your teacher directly. I actually was at the football game last weekend on Saturday because of my job. So I was selling some of the Elon merch there. Parties are fully back to normal. Dining halls are completely open. You do have to wear a mask inside though. So campus is back alive completely since COVID. There were a few thousand, probably around 4,000 in total, like people there, but it wasn't as jam-packed as I'm sure that game was. I was quarantined. The plans are still relatively the same. There aren't as much consistently checking yourself as required last year. And there's not as much like worry about COVID spreading. So we're not testing a whole population like weekly or anything like that. But if you do get tested positive with COVID, you will have to get quarantined.
Yeah.
Which is the same as last year. Yeah. So I've decided I want to get an econ minor. So I'm taking statistical decision making as well as microeconomics. And then for my politics, I'm taking American political thought. And then I'm also taking Germany in the New Millennium, which is a German class, just because I like speaking German and it's just a passion of mine. Yeah, I would say you do have less time when you're not doing Zoom classes, because while you're doing a Zoom class, you can do other assignments. You can catch up on sleep. You can do whatever you want to on a Zoom class. But when you're in person, you have to walk to class. You have to stay in class the entire time and then leave. So really, I've noticed that my time is cut down, plus with working. So it's been a little bit harder to make sure I get all the assignments done and everything. But the assignment and coursework is pretty much the same level of difficulty, except for like my political science class, which is like a level 300 class. So the writing is much harder. So the food at our dining halls is pretty good. We have a lot of like options to choose from. We have about 3 dining halls on campus. One is like and they have like some staples that stay there pretty like regularly, like at McEwen, which is the closest dining hall to where I live on campus or on my on-campus apartment. They always have a pasta bar and stuff like that, salad bar. We also have a pizza place on campus, Qdoba, an ice cream place. So there's a lot of options to choose from.
And that wraps up this episode of BRN Weekly. Have a topic of interest, somebody you think we should talk to, drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the information in retirement, markets, technology, personal finance, so much more, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. We're back again tomorrow for BRN Sunday. I'll be joined by members of the media, academia, and financial services to analyze all the news and information for the week. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
Are you being audited, and do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. The IRS can freeze your assets and seize your bank accounts, but you can stop these IRS actions. The Tax Doctor will work with you using our years of experience to represent your case to help you get the best resolution under the IRS guidelines. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. We've handled thousands of cases, so we know what we're doing. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a Tax Doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
Call 800-224-6439.